There are places in America you are not allowed to go. Not because someone's hiding a secret, because the ground itself is poisoned, and it will be for thousands of years. Coming up, a concrete dome cracking open over a pit of nuclear waste, a meltdown that happened next to Los Angeles and was kept quiet for decades, an entire secret city built to make the atomic bomb, and the single most contaminated place in the United States, holding 2/3 of the nation's nuclear waste, leaking toward a river right now. 10 forbidden radioactive places in America. Let's get into it.
Number 10. Safety Light Corporation, Pennsylvania. For most of the 20th century, this factory made glow-in-the-dark products, watch dials, exit signs, using radioactive materials like radium and tritium. The problem is what they left behind. The site became so contaminated that it was placed on the Federal Superfund list, the government's roster of the most hazardous places in the country. The soil and groundwater are still contaminated today. It sits quietly in a small Pennsylvania town, fenced off, a place that once made things glow, now glowing for all the wrong reasons.
Number 9. Church Rock, New Mexico. Almost nobody has heard of Church Rock, and that's part of the tragedy. In 1979, a dam holding back uranium mining waste broke open and released more radiation than any other accident in United States history, more than the famous 3 Mile Island meltdown that same year. Over 90 million gallons of radioactive waste poured into the Puerco River. It flowed straight through Navajo land, where people relied on that water. Decades later, the contamination is still there, and it remains one of the worst nuclear accidents most Americans were never told about. Number 8. The Runit Dome, the Marshall Islands. After World War II, the United States tested dozens of nuclear weapons in the Pacific, on and around the Marshall Islands. When it was over, they had a problem: tons of radioactive debris and contaminated soil. So they scraped it all into a bomb crater on one small island and poured a giant concrete dome over the top of it. The locals call it the tomb. Here's the terrifying part. The dome is cracking. Rising sea levels are creeping up its sides, and the waste inside was never even given a proper lining underneath. The ocean and the waste are separated by aging concrete, and time is winning. Number 7. The Santa Susana Field Laboratory, California. In the hills above Los Angeles, at a place used to test rocket engines and nuclear reactors, something went very wrong. In 1959, one of the reactors suffered a partial meltdown. It released radiation into the air over the most populated region in the state, and for years, almost nobody knew. The details stayed quiet for decades. Today, the site is still being cleaned up, and residents in the surrounding valleys have spent years asking hard questions about illnesses in their communities. A nuclear meltdown in the hills over LA, hidden in sight. Number 6. Fernald, Ohio. From the outside, the Fernald plant had a friendly red and white water tower that looked like it belonged to a cereal company. It wasn't making cereal. For decades, Fernald processed uranium for nuclear weapons and quietly released millions of pounds of uranium dust into the air and water around it. The people living nearby had no idea what was drifting into their towns. When the truth came out, the outrage was enormous. The plant was shut down and torn apart, but the community spent years living in the shadow of something they were never warned about. Number 5. The West Lake Landfill, Missouri. Just outside St. Louis, there's an ordinary-looking landfill hiding an extraordinary secret. Buried inside it is radioactive waste left over from the Manhattan Project, the program that built the first atomic bombs in the 1940s. And here's what makes it a nightmare. Right next to that buried nuclear waste, an underground fire has been smoldering in the landfill for years. For a long time, the fear was simple and horrifying. What happens if the fire reaches the radioactive material? People have lived and raised families within sight of that landfill the entire time.
Number 4. Idaho National Laboratory, Idaho. Out in the remote Idaho desert sits one of the country's key nuclear research sites. It's where, in 1961, a small experimental reactor called SL-1 suffered a sudden explosion. It became the first fatal reactor accident in American history. The site is enormous and heavily restricted. It's done vital research over the decades, but parts of it are contaminated, and it sits atop one of the largest underground water sources in the region, a place of both discovery and danger, sealed away in the high desert.
Number 3. The Nevada National Security Site. About 65 miles from the bright lights of Las Vegas is a stretch of desert where America tested its most powerful weapons. Between 1951 and 1992, more than 900 nuclear tests were carried out here. Around 100 of them were above ground, sending mushroom clouds into the sky that tourists in Vegas would actually drive out to watch. The landscape is still scarred with massive craters from underground blasts. The ground here is permanently contaminated, an entire region of America reshaped and poisoned by the bomb.
Number 2. Oak Ridge, Tennessee. In 1942, the government created an entire city in Tennessee that didn't appear on any map. Tens of thousands of people were brought in to work there, most of them with no idea what they were actually building. They were enriching uranium for the first atomic bomb. They called it the Secret City. Oak Ridge exists openly now, but decades of nuclear work left behind serious contamination in the soil, water, and old facilities. A city born from the most secret project in American history, still living with what it made.
And number 1. The Hanford Site, Washington. Along the Columbia River in Washington state sits what many experts call the most toxic place in America. Starting in 1943, Hanford produced the plutonium for the first nuclear bomb ever detonated, and for much of the Cold War arsenal after it. What it left behind is staggering. Hanford holds roughly 2/3 of the entire nation's high-level radioactive waste, tens of millions of gallons of it stored in aging underground tanks. And here's the crisis. Some of those tanks are leaking. The waste is moving through the ground toward the Columbia River, a river that millions of people depend on. The cleanup is one of the most expensive and difficult environmental projects on Earth, and it is nowhere near finished. The most contaminated place in America, quietly leaking toward one of its greatest rivers right now. So there they are, 10 forbidden radioactive places, most of them still dangerous, and most of them out of sight. Now, I want to hear from you. Which one shocked you the most? Team Hanford, a slow-motion disaster leaking toward a river? Or Team Runit Dome, a cracking tomb the ocean is coming for? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if there's a forbidden place near where you live, tell me. It might be the next video. If you made it this far, you're exactly who this channel is for. Subscribe to Untold 10, and I'll see you in the next one.